What's up, everybody? Thanks once again for tuning in to listening and otherwise supporting the Pohada podcast. This time around, I got a couple repeat guests, but with some big-ish kind of news relating to gyms in and around the Twin Cities, and we get into coaching and a little bit of this and that like we kind of always do. Kaitlin from the Striking Institute, Jeremy and Jennie from Minnesota Top Team, who have kind of joined forces. So I figured we'd listen to them explain what's going on, the why and the what. Before we jump in though, I keep one handy in my pocket. It's all crunched up. Salt electrolytes. Check them out. Discount code POHADA, P-O-R-R-A-D-A. Much like your other electrolyte supplements, minus the bad stuff. You know, keeping it clean. Not too salty either, which I appreciate given I've tried a few of these. Also shout out to Hamel Jiu-Jitsu, one of my jiu-jitsu homes, and shout out to the best available soap. If you can't be good at jiu-jitsu, you can at least smell good at jiu-jitsu. Way of the Tiger Soap Company, check it out. He's one of us. He just makes soap on the side. And without further ado, my conversation with Kaitlin, Jeremy, and Jennie.
What's up?
Are we up?
What's up?
Yeah. What are we talking about?
Live.
Are we live?
Well, not live, but we're recording.
We're recording.
Yeah. What are we doing? Is that how you start a show?
I think you're supposed
think
to come
so.
with questions.
Oh,
I think.
okay. Yeah.
Have a
I think you're
narrative.
interviewing us.
What's your names? That's a question.
I'm Kaitlin Young.
And Jeremy Clark.
Who are you?
That's an
Ooh.
existential question. We are here today discussing gyms,
Which gyms?
specifically Striking Institute and Minnesota Top Team.
Same thing now?
Yeah.
We're just moved and sharing space? She's not even on camera. She don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I would say same thing. Joining forces, yeah. Same thing. There is definitely some overlap. We're doing some MMA stuff that's a collaboration for sure. But it is Minnesota Top Team has been a full. They have jiu-jitsu, CrossFit, boxing, in-house PT as well. So
And house painting?
PT.
Oh, house PT.
In-house.
There's probably a
PT.
house painter
Yeah, house painting.
Might be.
here somewhere.
That's the way gyms should be, no?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just jiu-jitsu or just kickboxing or just lifting.
It's
Seems kind of
hard when
boring.
you got people that do multiple things. I think you do the martial arts long enough, you get sucked into everything a little bit. You can't help it.
Yeah, because it's all cool. Looks cool anyway. Why the move? Why did we team up?
Well, we've been talking about it for a while. I really like the way they do things here, and I have been traveling a lot. We have a lot of competitors at SI, and have the opportunity to kind of join forces with these guys and see how they do things in terms of running like the greater business, greater building, bigger programs was an incredible opportunity. And our lease was pretty close to being up anyway. So when we were looking at options, this seemed like a great one. And in particular, when we have a lot of youngsters coming up in the MMA game, it's really challenging to run a full MMA program while also doing a full striking program in a small space. You need to have people learning grappling from the ground up.
Yeah.
And they have an excellent program for that. So
Right.
It was just a wonderful fit from our end.
And a designated second space.
Absolutely.
Whereas at the old SI space, we had this mat.
Well, and the whole floor was training space. There was no...
Yeah.
People would sometimes want to bring their kids, and it was like the whole floor is training space. So
Right.
if they decide to start smashing trophies, there's nowhere to have them go sit.
Or turn on the treadmill they're standing on and
dump
get
body
thrown.
armor on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So it wasn't like oh shit, we're going to have to go out of business to save ourselves. Let's move in with Jeremy and Jennie. It was a kind of a considered strategic decision that probably
Absolutely.
made sense
Absolutely.
from
yeah.
a money standpoint and everything.
Yep.
Who's all coaching SI here at Minnesota Top Team?
Haley Donaldson, obviously myself, Haley Donaldson, Tom Jenkins, who's been with us forever, and Kuchalon.
Okay. So we kept a lot of the same crew because it's
and
distance-wise, we're far away from where we
it's
were.
a ways, and that was really kind of the only downside
Sure.
for some of our people, which is a bummer. But when we're looking forward into the future, it just made sense. Tom Jenkins had actually been coaching down here and they had a kickboxing program that was a couple times a week, right, guys?
I think I bumped
So we
into
kinda
him
came in
here
and
more than
expanded it.
anywhere, actually, just by virtue of going around taking pictures or whatever.
For sure.
But I bump into Tom at like 5 different gyms randomly, so he's kind of an everywhere
Yeah,
guy.
he's all over the place. But he had, and that was another great sign for us is Tom had already been down here and was spoke super highly of these guys.
He was spying.
He was the canary.
It's a canary. It's a brightly colored bird.
At this point, they
He
can
is a
spy all they
brightly
want.
colored bird.
Yeah.
Care less.
Have fun. If it brings
think-
business, whatever.
I think there's a bigger overview of that.
Mm-hmm.
We've got almost 19 years now in this, 17, whatever. And when we look at what the most important thing in owning a gym is, it's the people. And the people that are coaching create the culture. If they're having fun and they're good at what they do, it has nothing to do really with the space. It has to do with the person. So for the last, I've known Kaitlin for a long time, for the last 2-3 years, we know this better than anyone. It is extremely difficult to build a gym, and it's easy to start one. It's even easy to go for the first year or two. Then as growth comes in, and there's a lot of options out there, and keeping people, and there's so many intangibles. So I understand how hard it is. Jen and I have been at it a long time, and out of all the people in Minnesota that we know, there's a few that I really like and trust, and she was high on that list, if not at the top. So watching her work and do what she does in her space alone, I had this idea that Jen and I have been lucky enough to own our own building, build this program, build this gym to what it is, and there's nothing but upsides. Plenty of little cricks to get ironed out, but there's nothing but upside to bring someone like Kaitlin and her staff in.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the name and whose name and are we in, or like that stuff doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that when people walk in the door, there's everything they could want. There's a high level of coaching ability. It's a full gamut with good coaches and good people, and that's what I saw there. So yeah, we're both super excited about it, and that was the genesis of it. I don't want my name on the Muay Thai trophies. I don't want to be standing next to her in a cage. I have no interest in any of that. But for someone of her talent and ability to have a place, less headaches, more options, to have the ground game and the guys there that my jiu-jitsu guys that are really good to help, to have 3 rings, to have a space to be able to just teach and not worry about the other things, we all benefit.
Seems like it fills a gap for both of you, and that's full-blown MMA. Like you were saying, it can train from the ground up with jiu-jitsu guys, and it kind of completes the striking grappling pair that you had here.
Yeah.
And bridges them together, no?
It does.
Yeah, and it's just a good, kind of piggybacking off what Jeremy was saying. It's just there's such a good vibe in here too with their. I don't even want to say it's just the way things are taught, but like there's a bit of a matched intensity that's really nice. Like even when maybe somebody isn't planning to compete in boxing, there's still an intensity with the training, and it gels incredibly well, I've felt, for 2 gyms kind of coming together.
I just like the sound of barbells banging in the background. 'Cause I'm a washed up, never was, has been lifter, so as I'm pretending to do jiu-jitsu in my pajamas, I just love the idea that people are dropping bars somewhere to the energy point. Like hit some bags somewhere, like keep the show going.
And they have some killers here. If you stick your head over there with some of the people, especially that I've seen just midday, it's awesome.
The shiny crowd.
Some
The
savages,
shiny
yeah.
crowd.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to wear a shirt over there, I think. I I think that's the.
Is that Sean's rule? Because it seems to be a jiu-jitsu
I don't know.
thing
It's
for Sean,
some
too.
rule over there. The minute you get in there, you have to take your shirt off.
Yeah.
I haven't written it anywhere, but it seems to be contagious.
The unwritten rules are always stronger than the written rules anyhow.
That's right.
Much better place in terms of available space for strength and conditioning for your fighters, too, no?
Yeah.
I'm assuming a lot of them shopped out elsewhere because it was a little tight at the old SI.
Yeah. No, exactly. And there was, if you remember the space, we had primary mat space and then just a ring. So there could maybe be a lesson or somebody getting individual work at the same time. But we had kind of all of our weightlifting and treadmills and stuff crammed because you need that. You have to be able to do pull-ups and stuff. You're getting ready for fights. But you having this amount of space where you can be seriously training 10 people at a time makes it so much easier. And then exactly that, people aren't having to drive 30 minutes in every direction when they are trying to get all of their activities in, because especially because we are so competitor heavy, it is, I think, really almost all of those people are doing strength and conditioning,
right?
They're doing jiu-jitsu too, or what have you. So it kind of definitely simplified things for me, but also for a really high proportion of the people that train with us.
Yeah.
I concur.
Nice. Dynamite drop-in. That broadcast school is really paying off. What else?
If you look at again, we're going back, kind of repeating, but the thing that I liked about Striking Institute and Kaitlin, she brought Tom, I think, in our first gym for one of his early fights.
That's right.
Rose Namajunas' one of her first fights. I don't even think she was 18 yet.
No, she was 17.
17. She fought there. So we've known each other for a long time.
That's no big deal, fighting under 18?
Yeah. It's not now. It was then.
Okay.
The commission just took over Thai boxing this year. You got to remember. Used to be unsanctioned in Minnesota.
Yeah, they're screwing things up in wrestling and jiu-jitsu now too, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
But
those are my words, not yours.
I love the idea of finding places, and you can use whatever analogy, a greasy spoon or a restaurant, whatever. I love the idea of under-promising and over-delivering, right? So that was kind of the cool thing about if there was a gymnastics tournament on, you couldn't park, right?
Oh, yeah.
Walk. There was people everywhere. And yet,
parking was a nightmare. Yeah.
Once you got into that gym, it was savages, and it was legit. And you're like, you kind of felt like you stumbled on something that was your own little secret. No one else knows about this. This is so cool. I think it's kind of the same thing here. Like, we're not going to do a whole lot of so we do social media, but the idea when people walk in and go, I did not know you had, that's what matters. Yeah. I love that. Jen and I have Jen's built it. I've helped into something that the culture, the people, they walk in, there's good grapplers of every size. There's good boxers of every weight class. There's Muay Thai people of every level. There's 15 coaches to pick from. There's CrossFit. There's conditioning. There's
no influencers, is what you're saying.
Not many.
Just Sean.
He's trying.
He asked for yet another shout out on the mic, so that'll be the official shout out on the mics. Yeah. He didn't have a shirt on when he asked.
Of course.
Yeah, I dig that because we were chatting strongman because you had the misfortune of rolling with a strongman guy, and single stall apartment garage, 8 guys training, full squat rack, full set of stones, and you park a Chevy Cavalier in there in between. Nobody knows that's happening, but there's some of the best in the country, one of the best in the world. That's like old school romance for gyms for me.
Oh yeah.
Well, it parries to conversations we've had, and we remember this. We went through every time we had an add-on or a change. Like the neat thing about that little greasy spoon, you're kind of upset when they add on and they bring in another chef, or now they're open all day and now everybody knows about it. You're like, well, you kind of
change the menu or something.
Yes, so it's a constant battle to still keep that uniqueness that people they feel like it's theirs and no one else knows about it, and they're part of a secret club. It's a battle to grow because this is a business. I want all of us to make a living at it, and yet still try and find that culture of these are my people, this is my group. I don't think anybody has worked harder than Jen as we grow. There's still no one left behind. We have to know who those people are, and you can see when that person needs some attention, or let's make sure this person is welcomed in here. And we have an incredible group of veteran fighters in every one of these rooms that you can easily tap and go, listen, so-and-so's brand new. There's some stuff in the past or whatever it is, whatever we know, a little bit of love. In fact, maybe a lot of love. You guys are partnering. We do it in jiu-jitsu. Brand new, I'm going to make sure he's with TJ. I'm going to make sure he's with one of the guys that's a veteran. And then the culture that we've created, they get a lot of attention. And all of a sudden, that's what generates growth, right? There's a reason there's 400 people and we've 450 people. We've got some people that have been here 10, 12 years, right? Still coming in because they're still, hi, Cindy. How you doing today? Still know her name. She's still important. And that's amazing.
Yeah, you got the depth to delegate to unofficial leadership in the gym. Even.
That's it.
Like, I can trust that guy because he's been here forever to show them the ropes a little till I get to it.
I've liked that about Top Team a lot. It kind of has it's a big gym, but it's got more of that small gym vibe to it.
You got to make a U-turn to get here, for God's sake.
I mean,
still, you do.
So it's out of the way. It's tucked, But once you're in, you're in.
It's tucked.
You're on your way to the YMCA or something lame, and you took a wrong turn, and you found the right spot.
Are.
It's ironic that's happened a couple times.
Yeah, no, it's not ironic at all. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
But, I think sometimes it's really easy. I'm not saying this to pick on anybody, but sometimes when gyms do expand or get bigger, it almost comes hand in hand that they become more commercialized.
Yeah. Sterile, cold.
So yeah, kind of.
Goes that way, and the fitness side for sure.
And that's something I've been really impressed with that they've been able to do here is it still feels like a smaller gym in that way. Feels like a
club.
Not unlike what you were saying, the strip mall little fighter gym. It still has that vibe, which is super nice.
Yeah.
Which takes an incredible amount of work, and this is where I keep mentioning Jen, because the amount of effort you put in to make sure every coach still feels important, every person that comes in, that's easy at 60, 70 members. It's difficult when you crest over 400, right? Yeah. And then making our front desk people go, listen, that person's important, that person's important. That stuff doesn't come. And I think one of the things, if there was a catalyst that has kept us this way, it was a slow growth, right? We often joke about it when people ask about a gym, oh, this is what I want. If you'd have given us this building and this number of people at year 3, we would have failed. Year 4, we probably would have failed. It took year 8, right? And even then, moving in was a transition and it was a battle. To give us Kaitlin and her team at year 7, probably would have failed.
Too much.
Yeah, you have to learn and you have to grow slowly, right? And it's a patience game. It's kind of like jiu-jitsu. It's not who's best, it's who's left, right? That Chris Hoyter's saying.
Yeah.
Now
That's really what we are. That's how you have to be.
You got to be mom and pop, she says, despite not wanting to be on camera or on the microphone. She says you got to stay a mom and pop operation.
That's a winner.
Well, but that it ties to the exact point you're making is you're fostering and building relationships. So you can't do that with 400 people in your first year.
No.
It's not possible. If you're a big fancy Lifetime with a nail salon and a protein shake bar and zero communication, zero friendships, zero social element to it, it's a big sterile fitness environment, it'll work fine. But also, it sucks.
Yeah. And I think there's also and I didn't know it for a long time. And I remember when we've had the conversations of when we first kind of got rid of MMA, that had to do with me figuring out what I wanted, what I really wanted, what was my dream, because I didn't know what it was at that time. And I thought it was driving to Kansas and driving to Wisconsin and standing on the side of a cage. And I realized that after that, it drained us financially, emotionally. I realized that wasn't my dream. And I was sitting by myself one night. Don't think, just answer. What do you want? And it's exactly what you see. It's a cool environment where people get to do what they want to do. We have fun. I get to roll with the guys that I really like to. And we're going to try and make a living out of it. So with all those things, the culture and we're talking about, it's important that I go to Kaitlin and go, okay, what exactly is what's your dream? It says train fighters and have the space. And okay, so we go to Lefty, we go to Roderick, we go to each one of our coaches and make sure that, I mean, it's not their dream necessarily, but what do they need to do their job at their best ability? What equipment do they need? What do they need from us support-wise, whatever the case it is? It's a big job, but if you can keep each one of those people happy and moving that way, then the culture grows. Then the people around them love being there. And I think that's kind of what gets lost when you, like you talked about, really big, really fast. I don't have time to worry about what you need. I don't have time to worry about what you need. And it changes the environment.
What? This is random, kind of off the cuff. What percentage of your membership are active users? Something tells me it's pretty good. The gym industry exists on the back of people who sign up with good intentions, never show up and wear out the treadmills.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate.
At least 80.
80. It's got to be gigantic compared to what's normal for any kind of gym. It's a lot.
Well, they also, I mean, it's relative to everything else, but it's not a cheap membership. I mean, there's a reason why the poster signs are $9 a month for a gym that you'll never go to.
Yeah.
But you won't look at your bank account for $9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's a value pitch. It's not
that's it.
Here's your thing. It's no, here's the value.
Yeah. And we also spend a lot of time, a tremendous amount, because people don't communicate as well as they should. And it's uncomfortable sometimes. We spend a lot of time going, okay, who hasn't been here? Send a text.
Yeah. Find
Find out. We got some great stories of people that were like, I don't know if I want to do this. And all of a sudden they got a text from Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, he's reaching out. They care. And at the end of the day, you show people that you care, especially in their fun time. It's
such a low bar and it's such a simple thing, but it's huge.
huge.
The second you get a message saying, "Hey, where you been?"
Yeah.
Then you show up. Worked for me for years.
Not an automated.
No.
No.
Legitimate.
Yeah. She said it's not automated off camera and off mic.
For someone that didn't want to be in it, you're saying an awful lot.
You sure
She
won't
turns
shut
away.
up over there. I used to say that personal training because I in a big box gym, a YMCA actually, so I'm not just chucking shade like I used to work for him. In a very big box, sterile kind of fitness environment, I started a powerlifting club, and all I ever did was say, "I bet you'd be pretty good at that." They don't know nothing about it. I don't know if they're going to be good at it, you know, but got like dozens of people to go like legitimately train for and do powerlifting meets. So like stay-at-home moms and accountants and shit. You know, all I did was ever ask. Same kind of thing. Hey, you coming back? They will.
Yeah.
Just got to have that personal touch.
At the end of the day, it's not complicated. It just takes a little bit of effort on your part, right?
Got a growth goal in mind for both programs / this program?
Oh man, that's a good question.
We got big dreams now that we're banded together.
I mean, I think for me, it's a lot of the same goal. It's just easier. There's less roadblocks to it. Because obviously, like if you're the primary person running a gym and working with fighters just requires a lot of travel.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to hand that off to somebody while you're gone. And that's a bit of the trouble I was running into is not having that. And these guys have such an incredible system already set that it gives me more freedom to spend more time on the people that are you know, the people that you see like busting their butt and working really hard. It doesn't even just have to be fighters, but people that are putting the effort in. This is true with any kind of coach. You want to help people who are helping themselves, right? It makes you more driven to do it.
So much more enjoyable.
Absolutely. So having the freedom to give more to people who are super dedicated, I think probably what it does for what my personal goals would be is it fast tracks them. It makes it easier to help things along faster. So the thing that would take 2 years now maybe takes 6 to 9 months.
Which is better than bigger anyway. Faster and easier is better than bigger.
I mean,
do what I'm doing now, but easier? Great.
Yeah.
Right.
Bigger can come later. More people can come later.
And I think it comes with it, right? Because anytime you're able to hyper-focus, or like I'm able now to hyper-focus on coaching. And you just have more bandwidth for it. This is the truth with anything. If you're chasing 2 rabbits, it's harder to catch either. So being able to
Write that
coach almost
I think it was
exclusively
Mick
now.
from Rocky anyway. So
I thought it was Nietzsche. Never mind.
Nietzsche, you're supposed to say. So you
Nietzsche.
sound like a meathead. Sorry, go ahead. Never
No,
mind him or her.
That's
Just
all
keep
I
talking.
had. So,
Okay.
so it makes that much easier, and honestly, even being able to connect with Jeremy and Jennie and kind of commiserate about certain things has been really, really nice.
We did a lot of that even before this.
Oh my God, yeah.
3 hours and we haven't discussed a thing other than commiserate. The thing with that question too is it's a bit of a paradox, because if I told you we had a goal for this number and a goal for this size and a goal for this is going to happen, it contradicts what we just described that makes us individual. So one of the things that's important to all the coaches, if there's, use an example, if there's 3 people on the jiu-jitsu mat in an evening class,
Best class of the week, in my opinion.
those 3 people, they're not less important because there's not 50,
Right.
right? So if you enjoy teaching, which you told me you did when I hired you, then teach, right? And teach those 3 like those 3 are the most valuable. And that's the contagiousness that builds your program. So if we looked at it on widgets per hour and we have to be in 6 months, we have to be at this number and that number, you're shooting yourself in your foot because you're playing the corporate game that you just talked about, and you're defeating what we described made us individual.
Chasing the wrong rabbit.
Exactly. So whoever's in front, if they're having the best day and they're having a great training session, that stuff word of mouth will happen, and then programs grow. That's also why I invest in people, right? I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that if I advertise could come and teach Muay Thai, but I didn't want anybody. I wanted her. Make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. Why do I feel nervous all of a sudden? He's looking at me. It's a very stern tone of voice there.
I got beat up by a big guy, so big guys now, I'm like,
Targets on their
yeah.
back.
I'm angry at every one of them.
Yeah,
I
but
say.
he was still strong. I gave up on that, man. I'm out of shape. When's the first combined effort fight card then? Who's competing next? Or
Man.
You see the logos side by side or whatever.
Kind of happened the day you walked in. Right? You had people fighting while we were
We had
moving
people
mats.
fight. Yeah, that was. I mean,
Yeah.
because there's never a good time. That was the tough thing, is we were trying to fit it in between fight cards, but there's never a good time because so many people are going. So we had one. We were here like about a month before. What I'm really looking forward to is the next set of MMA fights we have as well. And I shouldn't leave out that a couple of the guys have been taking advantage of the boxing as well. So working their hands, which if you fight Muay Thai in Thailand, it's becoming more so that way, but it's less of a big deal. But in the States, it tends to score a little bit higher. So it's important to have that base as well.
What scores higher?
So punches, I shouldn't say score higher, but kind of in the United States versus Thailand.
Sure. Okay.
A lot of the time, the way it's scored, it's not supposed to, but
Right.
it's comment for another day, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah.
But I think Santos is going to be next, and he also trains at Start. He's fighting in LFA on January 25th. So really looking forward to that. We have a national tournament in March that looking like we'll have a couple guys on, and I think the Ignite here is February 15th. So
Correct.
have a little bit of breathers for Thanksgiving, and then everybody's going to be hitting it hard again.
What else?
What else?
Anything and everything.
Rinse, repeat, huh? This is what we do every day.
Yeah, what the fuck are we talking about again before we do this, right? I like that, though. It should be kind of business as usual.
Yeah. Fixing stuff, hanging stuff, making sure everybody gets what they need. I think it's fun to playing with the MMA to see a different side, right? Like,
Yeah.
I started striking, but then obviously got hooked on the grappling stuff. I'm a little older now, but you can really, the two of us teaching. I've been
That's
in
been really fun.
a couple classes, and like I get to show kind of the escape and the big man stuff that's on the ground the way I roll, which is a simpler way than the gi jiu-jitsu tournament stuff. And then Kaitlin showing her side of it with the strikes and everything. I don't know. I feel like it's been
really good. And so our MMA practices are kind of, we do it differently than a lot of gyms in that we don't have like a MMA beginner program. We want people to have a base in striking and grappling before they're even invited to that practice.
So your beginner program is training the
baseline skills
Yep.
and learning how to be a good partner first. It's a big deal because creativity is kind of king in MMA, which means there's a lot of ways to win, a lot of ways to lose, a lot of ways to accidentally hurt somebody. So we try to kind of bring people into the fold slowly, but it's been really great coaching that because we'll both be in there and kind of having two coaches on at the same time. It's just easier to give everybody more individualized attention and catch more because you're watching one pair of people, you're not seeing what's happening behind you as much. So that's been really good, and I think people are progressing quickly because of it.
This was a big conversation we had at the beginning because of our background with it and my philosophy on it. What is MMA? It's mixing martial arts, right? So martial arts at the top, which is boxing and jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. And I mean, when we first had it, MMA, of course, is a big deal. It was a big catchphrase back then. Guys would come in, they didn't want to grapple, they didn't want to stand, they didn't want to box, they just wanted to do MMA. Which made no sense to me. You ended up with bad partners, you ended up with bad training.
What do they do, though?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is
flail about at one another.
Post pictures on Facebook.
I get behind that.
Yeah. So I really like where we matched on the philosophy of, okay, show me you can, because I remember it early on, and guys would come in and they're going to fight MMA, and yet you put them in a no-gi grappling class, and a one-stripe blue belt would be just dominating them. They couldn't get out from underneath. They had no ability to escape. They had no ability to, hardly any. Some of them had takedown because a lot of them were wrestlers in the past and then just wanted to fight. Just fine. I'm not. We have a saying in LA. You can do that. You're just not going to do it here. You can do that. You're not going to do it for the Kings, right? So it's kind of the same thing with us. Is like, yeah, go fight. I care less. Chase your dream, but you're not going to sign up for a fight, then come and find me 2 weeks out and go, I don't want to train grappling. I don't want to train stand-up. I just want to fight MMA. Then you don't understand.
Right.
It's the point, at least in my perception. And
it's too dangerous for you to go do what you want to do, but feel free.
Well, I don't even care.
You don't even get it, man.
It's not even the dangerous part. It's just like you're missing the point.
Right.
And the point is getting really good at grappling and then good at stand-up. And if you can with a handful of you see our competition boxing is packed. There's a lot of people in there. So if you can go 4 or 5 rounds with 4 different guys and do well, you come into jiu-jitsu and you can manage really well on the mats. You get with Kaitlin and you're good with your stand-up. That's a great recipe to, make the transition, in my opinion. Yeah. If you can't do any of those things and yet you think you belong in a cage, then personally, I think you're doing it for the wrong reason. But what do I know?
Yeah. And it's so weird because MMA, at least as far as I've seen, is the only combat sport where this happens. Where people will just book a fight. I don't know if it's because it's so close to a street fight, people think if they see red or whatever, they're going to be able to do well. But I've had that experience back at the original spot where people would book a fight and then want to come in and learn stand-up in a month. And I'm like, I'm going to do more damage to your emotional well-being by showing you how bad you are right now than be able to help you. And
phase one.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm just going to crush. You're just going to get your confidence crushed here before you go in there. So you're almost better off not doing it.
Yeah, just go in and rage. Call me afterward.
Don't know how much you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I feel like when people come in and want to Thai box, they understand like they're starting from square one. Or when they come in and want to do jiu-jitsu, you get smoked in jiu-jitsu and you're like, oh man, all right, I really need to practice, right? It's disheartening. The first time you roll and get smashed, it sucks. But if you're willing to stay, you're almost never coming in like, hey, I booked a grappling tournament in a month and I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu in that amount of time. I don't know where this comes from in MMA, but it's mind-blowing.
Because it has a fan base.
It's got to be, right?
Go to a
the
jiu-jitsu
social media
tournament. Everyone around that yellow thing at the IB is other people from the gym.
Yeah.
Maybe some moms and dads.
Nobody's dressing up for it.
Everybody there is a blue belt or higher. And the hell's Muay Thai? Let's be honest. So everybody at Muay Thai is coaches, other people from the gym, and I love them both. I'm not bagging on it. But having been to some MMA events and looking out at these are my people. I'm not bagging on them either.
No, but it's casuals.
The white
yeah.
trash that's in the crowd. Like, these are people they love this. This is dog fighting. This is violence. Yeah, I'm a bad motherfucker. I want some fights. Let me go do this. You know, it's part of the fan base, like, which is good. It's good energy. People, buy tickets and show up, but like, calm down. You got to be a dork. You got to be a martial artist. Can't just be a tough guy with a crooked hat.
Well, and sometimes when people are really athletic, this is what's tough. That'll get them a little ways sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Confidence goes a long way,
and
right?
then it's almost harder if they have some success because you're like, yes, I understand that you've been successful with this, but you don't know how deep this water is, and you see young guys especially get really badly hurt sometimes because they will just book, some promoters will just book them anyway, and even though it's some kid who's barely trained, and it's tough because it is dangerous. Like, we don't think about how sideways fights can go, but they really can. So if you're thinking about fighting, make sure you talk to an experienced coach before you sign yourself up.
Yeah, patience.
Moral of the story.
Right.
It's one of two ways. And I mean, it's ironic what you just said because I deal with it in hockey as well. One of the hardest guys that I have to train is guys that have fought a lot. So we get an older player that's, I see some gaps in the game, but he's done it for a long time. It's really difficult to get him to change what he does. And at the end of the day, you get to do whatever you want, but it's so much easier with a young kid coming out of the OHL or juniors, and then they're just starting the American League, and they want to fight. It's an easier piece of clay to start to mold towards a defensive structure and grips and everything else, versus the guy that's just always done it. Right? And then you reintroduce. On the flip side too, though, there's something to be said about if that person does book a fight in 2 weeks and goes and fights, and if nothing bad happens, maybe that will. I mean, there's nothing like what you said. We get on the mats for the first time thinking, if I just see red, then no one's going to have a chance, and you get mopped by everybody, and your ego is bruised. You got one of two things: you can quit, or you can go, okay, what is this, and how do I? This is a long game, right?
Yeah. Very.
Yeah.
Or you were talking about old dogs, is what you were talking about.
Kind of. Yeah. We've got the same thing. We got the same thing here. We got a phenomenal coach in Dylan Saxhog that comes in on Wednesdays, right? And Dylan's been at this a long time. He was part of the MMA group, but
he's on my list actually.
He went down the rabbit hole with leg locks and his whole group, and they're phenomenal at it. And like, once they get a hold of my legs, it's over. And I'm almost 50, and I get on the mat, and they're going to work on legs, and I don't want to. I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to.
You're not that malleable clay you were talking about?
Like, no. 20 years ago, I would sit in 50-50 guard or whatever that nonsense is called. Now I just don't want to.
You call it a leg Americana.
Yeah.
Or,
and it would
just make it familiar.
It would be great for the game, and I would be, but I just don't want to. I know a little bit about it, but those guys have it to another level. But
you know what you got to do is you yank your leg out of there.
Thank you. You should be on the mats. That's great coaching.
I was talking with Hayden Buckner. He's like, hey, I heard you're getting better with legs. I'm like, I yank them out now. That's all I do. That's it. He's like, that's step one.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like we covered it, unless you got shout-outs or call-outs.
I don't think so.
Cool.
Oh, I feel bad. I didn't mention.
Keep going.
So Tommy Peterson's got a fight, and I'm not going to be able to go with, unfortunately, this one in Saudi Arabia, February 1st.
But it means it'll be a reasonable time of day to watch it.
This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. People should watch.
Where? How do I find it? Do you know?
I think it's Fight Pass. I don't know. I'm not sure which one it's going to be. I think it's a fight night.
Sure.
So.
All right. Cool.
Are you
February
still rolling?
1st.
Fuck yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. Been a couple weeks because I've separated ribs again, but.
I don't know. Who separated your ribs? How'd that go down?
Fucking Zach Jeffrey.
Oh.
Drove an hour and a half to his place. 7 minutes in.
How?
He was my first pressure tap here, actually.
Really?
When I first started, neon belly up against the wall. I didn't know what to do. Still don't. Yeah, I roll from time to time.
Tumbling, but it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
I almost pressure tapped 2 days ago for the first time in 15 years.
This is a strongman guy?
Yeah.
Gravity.
I've heard people complain about being underneath and they can't move, and I've always said, you're fine. You just start to move your hips, you'll get out. That monster was... Martin Zavickas was one of the hardest rolls, and I had to go 4 times, 4 6-minute rounds.
Does he do jiu-jitsu, or is he just messing around?
He does, and he's going to start competing, and Tiago was so sick of being the only guy to roll with him. He was excited I was in.
Where was this?
In L.A.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was humbling.
The thing I always say when people bitch about having to roll with the big guys, and they bitch 2 bigger guys, we're like, yeah, we agree. I don't want to roll with these fuckers either. What are you talking about? It sucks.
That's why I picked you.
You're smaller.
Pounds. Yeah, that's why I picked you. Yeah. Rolling with white belts is fun. Yeah.
That's who I tested the rib out on Monday with.
Yeah.
You might get a broken nose, but your rib will be fine.
That's true. They might cut you.
Yeah. Cool. I think we did it.
All right.
Feel good?
Yeah.
Rock and roll. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.